Hello, everybody, and good evening, and welcome to another WCS America broadcast. I'm, of course, Kev van der Kooi, also known as Rotterdam, and with me is the one and only Nathanius. Nate, you're still here. You didn't run away after one day. People have the tendency to leave me, but I'm glad you're still here.
It's worth being here for. We had some great games last night, and I'm happy to be here. I hope you are as well.
Yeah, yesterday was a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun over the entire last weeks in WCS America. I think the entire season. You guys may have followed everything. Guys may have missed a few broadcasts. Either way, just to kick things off, we might as well just take a look at what happened in all the previous weeks. We went through it a little bit yesterday, so I don't think we have to go through every group. But of course, the top two players from every group have advanced so far, and the players with a big cross to the line, those are the ones that have been eliminated.
Yeah, we kind of discussed this, as you said yesterday, a lot of upsets. We had some interesting results in last night's group, looking at Group G with, I would have said, the underdog of the group, Neeb, managing to squeeze out with Pult, even taking a game off of Pult in one of their previous series. I think maybe not as expected of a result as some people might have thought.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, guys. If you missed yesterday, Group G was one of the most fun groups of the entire round of 32. I had so much fun casting those games. Neep almost completing the upset in defeating Polt in Game 3. He was so far ahead, but perhaps showing a little bit of inexperience. Either way, a lot of fantastic names will make their way over to Cologne for the WCS America round of 16. And of course, I mean, we almost have all of them. We have a lot of established names. We had a couple of big upsets, and we have a couple of new faces as well. So it looks good. It's a very, I would say, attractive lineup. It would be a lineup that I would be looking at from home as like, I'd watch the tournament, but then I'd be watching myself. That would be really awkward.
Could end up getting some weird...
I could watch the VOD and then I could complain about the caster. Man, this guy.
That's one way to do it.
This guy in his purple shirt.
Yeah. Well, we have to finish up our last group of the round of 32 tonight. And I think we kind of discussed this earlier. This is a tough group to call. One of each race. We have two Protoss players. Of course, you guys can see them right there on the left side. MacSed, the Chinese player, who he's the only seeded player into this group from last season of WCS America.
Yeah, he had back-to-back runs to the round of 8, and that is super impressive. We kind of expected it from Jim, as both of them made it into WCS America round of 8 in Season 2, 2013. That was really impressive, but then MacSed did it again in 2013. But he does have his weaknesses, and I'm not sure if we're going to see them today. Jigua, the teammate from MacSed, who already made it to the round of 16, he said, I am 100% sure that MacSed is going to make it to WCS America round 16. I was like, wow. I mean, yeah, I love MacSed too, and I think he has a very good shot over here. But if we take a look at the other three players, those are some very well-established players as well. None of them is a pushover.
Yeah, I can't see really any weak link in this group. Puck, of course, had some great runs for himself in the online cups last year, as well as in the WCS America system, taking big names off of players like Hyun especially, and we haven't seen as much of Select or Sen, I would say. I haven't seen too many games from Select recently. He took an interesting series against QXC in Challenger League, but we don't exactly know what he's bringing to the table for this group.
No, you don't. But what you do know is that Select brings a lot of experience to the table. He's a multiple WCG champion in Warhammer back in the days, and he was also a very good Warcraft 3 player. Select is just kind of good at what he does. He played Dota for a while, was also good at that. Perhaps not like the best player in the world, but still was able to compete at a very, very respectable level. I really think he's just so relaxed in most of the things he do. I don't think that a lot of people would have put Select over QXC in their WCS America Challenger match, but he was able to come out victorious. And then last but not least, you have Sen. We like to call him the sleeper because once upon a time, all he did was sleep when we brought him out to a tournament. Was still the funniest thing, but we've told the story a lot of times, so we won't go into details. But what it boiled down to is that Sen just was sleeping at the office for 3 days straight while Todd was practicing nonstop, and then Sen beat Todd like 4-1 in a very one-sided series. And he is a little bit of a sleeper because we haven't seen that much of him on international competition lately. But what we do know is that Sen is still around. Sen is still active in the Taiwanese leagues, and here and there, Sen is still winning $10,000 and just doing very good for himself.
Yeah, I think I really like all the players in this group. I think they all bring a unique flavor, especially you kind of look at it, it's not as many of the big passive players. Like when you look at the group from last night, you say, okay, Minigun, very macro-oriented player, not as likely to be aggressive. Same thing for Pult. In this group, I can really see a lot of aggressive play coming out of Select, coming out of Puck especially. And to that extent, I think MacSed could go either way, especially same with Sen.
Yeah, I certainly like. Well, we always put a lot of thought into coming into a day like this, and most of the time I look at the group and I'm quite familiar with these guys. Like I even ran into them on ladder as well. Yeah, that MMR. And that was a very subtle brag, but that was not intent. Either way, like, so you know quite a bit about them. You watch them, but and normally I'm immediately saying like, all right, this guy's the favorite. And I think in general I'm pretty good with predictions. I'm having a hard time predicting who is going to make it out of this group. I just had a couple of tweets already before the broadcast, and of course we want to encourage all of you to join in the conversation. Hashtag WCS at Twitter. Make sure to show some love to at StarCraft as well and at ESL TV for allowing us to be here. And last but not least, if you missed anything from this WCS or from the previous WCS broadcast, take a look at starcraft2.com/WCS, where you will find all the updates. But once more, hashtag WCS. Let us know who you think is going to make it out of this group. Someone tweeted at me, he said like, well, I'll give you my prediction. I said MacSed and Sen. And I replied, I was like, well, if I had to make a prediction, that would probably be mine too. But I'm really not sure how I feel about it.
I mean, there's so many things to take into consideration. We've seen some really explosive play from Terran players against Protoss lately, especially with the mind change. Some great games.
Explosive.
Yeah, that's one way to put it. So, you know, that could make a big play with 2 Protoss players in this group and having Select here. And then just looking at Puck could upset almost anybody on a good day. And we kind of talked about this. MacSed just seems to have the most solid results, at least in WCS for last year. More points than anybody else here and certainly better results than anybody else here.
Yeah, he won a lot of money playing in WCS in 2013, and he's going to try to do the same thing in 2014. We showed you guys all of the groups, we showed you guys the players, and then the last thing to do is, of course, show you guys the bracket of today. As who is playing who? Well, we're going to kick things off with MacSed versus Sen, perhaps the 2 favorites in this group, but I think it's very hard to put it like that. And on the bottom side of the grid, we have Puck and Select, 2 very respected North American players. Puck, who may have struggled a little bit in PvT in the past, but I do feel that he's a player that works on his weaknesses. I really think this is such a fun group because I just don't know who's going to advance. Maybe the top side or the from the upper bracket is the favorite. Those are the 2 favorites. I don't know. What do you think, Nate?
I find it hard to disagree with you that MacSed and Sen probably giving us whoever wins this series. I almost feel like should be the player that would advance out of the game. Like whoever wins this first match should make it through the winners match. But looking at whoever's going to win between Puck and Select, I still really wouldn't be surprised if either of them upset him. It's like you said, it's almost impossible to really call this group. The only player I could give any edge to is MacSed.
Yeah, but the thing is as well, like imagine MacSed wins that first series and he would play against Puck if Puck is able to defeat Select, which I think is a 50-50 matchup. But if that happens, in the past, quite ironically enough, they were also in the same group. Back then, Puck was able to defeat MacSed in the first series they played 2-1. And then later in the deciding best of 3, and this is something that happened twice for Puck already in his WCS life, he lost 2-1 against MacSed. But that does show that it can go either way. And I also I actually recall those games because they were playing PvP back then exactly how I would be playing it. And that is just like double robo max out. And I feel that style has been kind of solved for a while. I think there's always a time and a place to, well, maybe not always, some 2-base all-ins not, but anything up to 3 bases, I would say there is a time and a place for the Tempest. And you see these world-class Protoss players squeezing in Tempest more and more. If MacSed is still like a little one-dimensional in his PvP, I really think that Puck can capitalize on that and maybe create an advantage for himself. Either way, this is all speculating. Maybe they will never play against each other. We don't know.
Yeah, anything is possible in WCS, but we're actually loaded into the first game for our first series today between MacSed and Sen, and we'll be kicking this Protoss versus Zerg up on Frost. We can see our first player in the northwest position, the blue Protoss player from Team Invictus Gaming. It is MacSed, the only player to be seeded into this group from previous seasons of WCS America, and he is looking to bring himself up into the round of 16 once again, and against a very formidable opponent in that of the Taiwanese player Sen, our red Zerg in the northeast.
Yep, PvZ on Frost is going to be our first match. We have they're spawning horizontal, which allows you for some crazy play. Lately I've been absolutely blown away by some of the ways that Snoot likes to play Swarmos on this map. I'm not sure if Sen is a Swarmos player. I don't remember him as one. I've really seen him do it. But Sen is definitely a player that picks up on stuff. Well, we're just making sure that oh my God, I'm falling apart right now. What is going on?
I think when you look at the map positioning, though, I think that brings in an interesting potential limit, I guess, to the strategies that we could see from these players. If MacSed wants to get aggressive, I feel top spawns for both players definitely favors the early Protoss pushes with the distance that you have. And I guess that's a better question for you. You feel the aggressive builds are better in these spaces as well?
It could be. Like, I'm not sure. Like, I do know that MacSed is in general a very aggressive Protoss player. He's the type of Protoss that just likes to make strong 2-base attacks. That's why it's like he's a player that's close to my heart because he plays a very similar style to how I like to play it. With these spawning locations, it's definitely possible. It could be quite easy for him to maybe hide a probe over here on the south side, then already start warping in while teching up to something.
Yeah, and it actually looks like it's a relatively greedy open. The Nexus into Gateway for MacSed with the gas follow-up. So he's not really worried about any potential early aggression that could come out from Sen. And this type of build, I feel, gives an interesting flexibility of early economy with the tech. He doesn't have to invest into a forge for defense. This could open up an opportunity for him to hit a big timing off 2 bases, as you said.
It's like the triple hatch opening over here by Sen. Of course, Sen... well, actually, like it was a gateway opening over here, or Nexus first. What was it?
Nexus first.
Well, that's a super greedy opening by MacSed. Sorry, guys, we're a little bit distracted as we're like trying to solve 1 or 2 minor issues over here, but that will all be taken care of real soon. This is a ridiculously greedy opening for Sen. It's actually the greediest Protoss opening in the book. It can definitely die against multiple early pool builds. But it does set you up for like ridiculous strong 2-base time. It's like something I discussed in the past with some excellent Protoss players from Europe, and they said like, well, this is really greedy, but if you can get away with it, you can do also like 3 or 4 gate pressure, and then later on you can follow it up with a big 2-base attack, maybe Sentry Immortal, maybe Blink Stalkers with Robo play as well. But everything just arrives so much quicker than it normally would that it's extremely hard for a Zerg player to deal with.
Yeah, the warp gate's already beginning. A forge is on the way. And I think what's interesting is how this can shape up against this fast 3 hatchery build from Sen. He's not mining any gas yet, so he's his only access for defense is Queens now as he takes this base. How soon can MacSed hit that he could actually... Can he even punish Sen for this type of build?
Yeah, like you can, like in multiple ways. Like if right now he rushes to 4 gate, it is very hard for him to make that work. However, Sen is like still not dropping an Destructor, but this is something that you can't know anymore as a Protoss player. If you open up with 4 gates and you try to really pressure this build, it is like you're playing a very risky game. It could work, but it can also completely backfire, and then you're just stuck on 2 bases with your 4 gates. If one thing goes wrong, like you lose the probe or you take one unfavorable fight, it goes wrong, you're almost dead. However, if MacSed would be like 100% sure that Sen did not take any of these extractors, what he should do then is just like warp in 3 Stalkers, you start poking, then you warp in 2-3 more Stalkers, then you have 6 Stalkers, you can kill unlimited amount of slow links, and then with like 2 or 3 Zealots you will be able to seal the deal. But once more, you're playing an extremely risky game if you're MacSed and you open up with 4 gates, you warp in a bunch of Stalkers, just hoping on the fact that your opponent has played Gasless for so long. I mean, MacSed played very greedy with his build, but Sen went absolutely nuts. He went bananas.
Yeah, the Mothership core is just starting for MacSed now. He has just taken the gases in his natural, so it doesn't look like, even with only 2 gateways being added, he wants to commit to too much aggression. The Roach Warren has just begun for Sen. So this seems like it's looking towards a pretty normal setup, looking more towards the mid-game as the 3rd Nexus does begin for MacSed.
Well, ballsy play by MacSed, and that's not the MacSed I remember against Zerg. Like going up to 3 bases at the 7-minute, 20-second mark. Where's my MacSed? Where's my MacSed who does these crazy 2-base all-ins that I can copy shamelessly on ladder and can piss off a lot of Zergs with? There's nothing wrong with this. This is solid. This is a little similar to something that Harstem was showing me in the previous days. And Harstem said this is basically the style that Sun has been doing for the longest time right now. And it's just something that he's been doing for months. And a lot of Zerg players have tried to find a way to break it, but it is just very hard. It's a super solid way to play PvZ. In my opinion, it's a little similar to what Deer was showing us during WCS Continental Finals Season 3. Just really solid PvZ, which shows no fear of Mutalisk. Well, normally I'd be a little afraid of this, but of course you will have very quick +2, and you should get very quick blink as well.
It's an interesting way to be really greedy, even from the first opening that he made. Moves out, kills a queen, and the Hallucinated Phoenix is going to run around to try to see if Sen is up to anything interesting. He'll pass over the natural and spot the lair as well as the Roach Warren getting that speed upgrade. But there's nothing crazy here to look out for, nothing reasonably outside the meta.
And I really wonder, like, what is Sen going to do? Sen just produced 13 roaches, but he kind of needs to do that because he doesn't know right now, I think, how many gates there are in the main. He does know that his opponent is going up to 3 bases, but how often have we seen a Protoss go up to 3 bases, then barely saturate that base, and then just wipe in like 8 stalkers at a time, and before you know it, as a Zerg, you have completely overdroned. However, I do not think that Sen is in a position to punish MacSed for his build. With that well-protected cannon, with all the gateways that he has, soon Blink and +2 on the way, Robo on the way, and that Mothership Core. Like, I like this kind of playstyle from MacSed a lot, and even though, guys, this might look very simple, very straightforward, it is really hard to execute as a Protoss. Even though nothing has really happened right now, it is so scary to play, and whenever I try to do it, I get completely overrun by the swarm. Like, you literally play against a swarm of units. However, I think MacSed, like, looking at his army, if his force suits are good, he should be all right.
Yeah, the Roach Zergling force is coming up, trying to just almost looking like it was going to bypass that third base. Now moving over, maybe even get at least an assimilator, not that. Force fields a few of them in. Potent Overcharge is activated as well, so it's some Mothership Core energy lost for a few roaches, but I like the point that you made earlier with that this is a very mechanically driven game with how much macro has been put, with how economic these builds are, and Sen, a bit hesitant to take a fight, needs to watch out for the force fields. We'll lose a few more roaches.
I'm not sure what like Sen is trying to achieve over here. He has a lot of money in the bank. I don't think that was really all that good. Right now it's 67 workers against 67 workers. His Hydra then did just finish up, and now we see 11 Hydras on the way. He has a reasonable creep threat, but it got slowed down by MacSed with that early push. MacSed did supply block himself here on an unfortunate moment. But right now with Colossus on the way, and like, I do not think that the Hydra timing is possible. I think by the time they truly start fighting, one Colossus is almost out, or should be almost out. MacSed has to be careful here. There's no way he can fight on creep. He's going to lose one Stalker immediately. Some of the Zealots and Sentries might even fall behind here.
Yeah, a bit of a scary position to be in. The Infestation Pit is on the way for Sen, so as you say, that Colossus timing can make things a bit difficult for a Hydralisk-based force, but he has the potential to move into Vipers. Maybe even in the longer run could eventually see Swarm Hosts. He has a couple of drones headed to the 4th base, but mostly just holding this tower. MacSed confirms the existence of this base. It's not too heavily droned. He can at least tell that it hasn't been there forever, but a Spire also begins for Sen. And is this... Well, I guess we're starting to see where he wants to go with this potentially with those Swarm Hosts in the production tab.
He kind of has to though, because like what else is there to do for Sen? He's playing against a 3-base Protoss with a ridiculous economy. +2 is already done, +3 is on the way, Colossus are on the way. Like with Roach Hydra, there's just not that much you can do. The only other thing he could have done, well, we do see War Prism head towards the main base. This is a whole different MacSed, by the way. MacSed seems to have grown a lot as a player ever since WCS 2013, where he already had good runs. But this is even better than what he displayed back then. And the only other choice that Sen had was just rush up to Hive and go into Vipers. But then often as a Zerg, you have one really strong attack in you. And if that attack somehow fails, well, then you're in for a pretty rough day.
Yeah, the Zealots managed to cut up a couple of drones. Roaches and Zerglings there to deal with it. I think that War Prism is still alive, though, skirting around the edges of the main base. At the same time, a huge push moving towards that 4th. There's not much resistance to be met there, but it looks like Sen's just moving his forces across to the 3rd of MacSed.
But it also means that he's going to lose his 4th base instantaneous, and MacSed can just recall home. These sentries are tripping out, but they're going to have to be ready for their flight home. All of these Zerglings are going to be force fielded in, I think. Of course, a little bit of free damage will be done to this Protoss army that just recalled, but I think I really like MacSed's position.
Yeah, manages to hold on to the 3rd base without sustaining too many losses. The first Swarm Hosts are here, though, sitting the waves of Locust, but nice job holding in those Roaches. Enduring Locust is only halfway done, and he's still putting out Roaches with this, as the follow-up War Prism Harass did take quite a toll on the main base, but well, he's just at 7 Swarm Hosts right now.
There are 8 Hydralisk on the production tab, but that's about it. 7 Corruptors are on the way as well. But we have Voiders in production. If those Voiders go up to like 4 to 6 and the Colossus count keeps rolling as well, the fact that MacSed sniped this 4th base is so important, because right now Zerg is basically never that rich that they can just like take unfavorable fights, but keep Protoss at 3 bases, whatever, at all costs. MacSed's War Prism Arrest hasn't been too effective in the last 2 minutes, as he wasted a bunch of minerals here and there. But I still feel like I'm impressed by the MacSed I'm seeing. If you would have like let me cast this replay, but you wouldn't have shown the name tags, I would have never said that this is MacSed. There's no way.
Yeah, so it's some pretty solid macro coming out of him. And 2-2 starting up for Sen. This, I mean, so you look at the army compositions. The Colossus Void Ray could be good if he gets a couple of them out quickly. The Corruptors, of course, takes lots of damage from the Void Rays. At what point does this composition start to lose its power versus what Sen is heading towards?
Nothing that Sen can create in the near future with the economy that he has. The only thing that's really scary for Sen is, you know, maybe a few Brood, or for MacSed, is if there would be a bunch of Infestors, then there is Broodlords and eventual Ultras on the map as well. Basically just like the scariest army that there is, like Infestor, Queen, Ultra, Broodlord, like that is something that can deal with this. Especially Infestors, very good against the Infestors. But this army, I think MacSed is going to absolutely slaughter this army of Sen.
Yeah, tries to attack into that setup. Those Void Rays charge up as well. The Stalkers blink south, trying to help ward away any of these Corruptors from those Colossi. 4 of them pushing through this Locust Wave. There's not too many Swarm Hosts to produce them on the map, and this allows them to chase back across the field a little bit. That creep not even at the tower. He does have the 4th base again, though. The Zealots are, well, they're looking to kill that once more.
They're like, where is that 4th base? It was supposed to be here somewhere. Sen is obviously worried about that base, so he's going to send a few roaches home, or maybe this was just a very fortunate rally. Now, that was definitely a move command. He's going to have to use those roaches, but he should be able to save this hatchery. Even though these Zealots with +3 are putting out quite some damage.
The Zealots they do pack quite a punch, and it looks like he might actually barely be able to get it. Yeah, he will kill the hatchery at the same time, trying to swarm over this force. Time Warp on the Locust. The Corruptors attempting to target fire down these Colossi. The Void Rays adding in a big punch zone. Most of the Colossi actually still alive. He is fighting. He killed the Mothership Core, but the Void Rays still stand with those Colossi. And does he have an Observer here to kill those Swarm Hosts? What I want to know.
He has an Observer. Yeah, actually it's next to the Colossus right now. Sen is just losing so much over here. Even though the supply might look kind of close, guys, this is extremely good for the Protoss. These Void Rays have to protect these Colossus though, but that is a good forward blink as well. These Stalkers with +3 attack, +1 armor are going to rip through this Zerg army, and MacSed is going to win game 1 over here on Frost pretty convincingly.
Yeah, that was a really nice game from MacSed. He did a great job of keeping his expensive units alive during all of those fights. And like you said, it was very nice macro-based play, that very greedy Nexus first into Gateway, and then taking the 3rd base at 7 minutes. He showed absolutely no fear at all regarding what Sen was up to.
Sen played pretty greedy on its own as well. It's just that I felt like Sen made quite a few roaches, and I understand the first initial roaches because there's no need for you to go up to like 85 drones without any units. But if you make like 13 roaches, then you make a few drones, and then you make a lot of roaches again. But his upgrades were never that good. He was on like +1 for the longest time. Then first he tried to achieve something with just the roaches that he had. Didn't work. Then he's like, well, let's make 11 Hydralisk, and then it's like, shall I attack? And then eventually he wanted to attack, but then he had to worry about his War Prism in the main as well. I felt MacSed truly won the game with that snipe at the fort while he was busy with the War Prism. He pulled Sen's army out of position, just like textbook Protoss play. That's how you want to do it. That's how Hero shows you that you're supposed to do it. And MacSed made it look easy.
It was a really great way to punish the counterattack that Sen tried to bring, killing the 4th base, recalling. It's a... You know, as a Protoss player, if you're out on the map, it can be bad to get caught off like that, but getting the 4th base and being able to defend really put him in a great position. I can't disagree.
Yeah, look, it was interesting as well that he decided to drop the Stargate in that phase in the game. While, you know, double Stargate is not uncommon for Protoss, especially not if you see a few Swarm Hosts and you already have the Colossus, then you're just like, well, then I'm going to make some Void Rays in case there will be Corruptors. But doing double Stargate of 3 bases, especially with the upgrades he had already, is like, often you see Protoss players like go for Archons first, but these Void Rays, they were definitely doing their job.
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. I guess it's one way to keep himself set up with the potential for late game tech if anything were to come out for like a fast hive, I guess. But or if it was forced into a longer stage of the game where you might need something like Tenthis. But the next map is Heavy Rain, and I feel like this is for Protoss versus Zerg. I don't know.
It can be a tricky map, but like it's definitely good for some strong 2-base plays. A lot of pushes can be extremely effective. I think you're just gonna have to relog into the lobby real quick, as both players are already ready for game 2 on Heavy Rain, just like Nathaniel said. It is you know, I think it's definitely an okay map for Zerg as well because it's wide open. It's a pretty good Swarm Host map, if you ask me. It could be a very long game again, but once more, I'm still very impressed by the way that MacSed played that game. That felt so unlike MacSed, not like the MacSed that we've seen throughout the entire 2013.
It's just the way that you can play PvZ. Sometimes you have the options we talked about at the very beginning of the game for the potential 2-base aggression, which a lot of Protoss players favor. I can almost expect to see that from Puck if we were to see him play against Sen at some point today. But playing off of the third base like that almost forces the Zerg to either try to match the greed, which MacSed just outplayed him in the macro game, or try to attack him early on, which none of his aggression was able to do any damage.
We will see. Once more, guys, of course, you're always welcome to join in the conversation. Hashtag WCS. We had a few minor hiccups in the first game, but I think everything is sorted out right now. I'm going to let both players know that we are ready, and then we can kick things off on Heavy Rain, which is going to be our second map. Of course, after this, it's time for Select versus Puck, and then the winners will play against each other, and then the losers are going to play against each other, and eventually we will have 2 players making it out of this group and joining us on the 4th and 5th of April here in Cologne for so much more StarCraft action.
Yeah.
WCS America is coming to the close.
Hey,
in Cologne.
You gotta do what you gotta do sometimes to make it happen. It's round of 16 is going to be very interesting for sure, especially with the player lineup. All of the upsets that have occurred in WCS America.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely see some whole new faces and gonna make it to WCS America round of 8 that has never made a run that deep in this tournament, at least by the looks of it, because I don't think there's even 8 players left from the last year that could all still make it to the finals.
Yeah.
Either way, I'm really excited. I'm sure that MacSed and Sen are really excited as well. Game 2 is live on Heavy Rain, and Athenius, you can go ahead and introduce our lovely players.
Well, spawning in the bottom position, we have our blue Zerg player, the Taiwanese Zerg, Sen. He played a pretty solid game, tried to outdo MacSed in the macro game, was not quite enough for him. And his opponent in the north position, the red Protoss player from Team Invictus Gaming, he's up 1-0 in this series. He's got to be feeling pretty good about himself. It is MacSed.
MacSed has already made the journey to America once alone. Of course, in Season 2, he came together with his partner in crime, Jim. And he's a very fun guy, especially if you're able to speak Chinese. He speaks a little bit of English as well, but he's kind of shy, but he's still really cool. I've known him for a super long time. MacSed, some people might not know this, used to be a pretty good Warcraft 3 player as well. He was not a great champion, like he wasn't one of the most legendary players of all time, but he was just one of those Chinese players that would always attend those tournaments. And you know, if he would have been a European, he would have been pretty damn good. But the Chinese Warcraft 3 scene was unreal. And slowly but steady, the StarCraft 3 scene seems to be getting better and better as well, with Jigawa showing some fantastic play just last week, defeating Liquid's hero.
Yeah, this lineup is pretty strong. That's one of the reasons you're saying these guys pretty, well, could be the favorites for this group. Sen sends out a pretty quick drone scout. Wants to, I guess, prevent anything like that really fast Nexus from happening again. He's already gone hatchery first back at home, and the drone is just trying to be really annoying. We can see MacSed threw down a forge as soon as that drone entered his base. So maybe he was planning on being really greedy, but he won't be able to do the same style in the last map as the last map.
Yeah, at least it wouldn't be as greedy as the game before. Of course, for us, a 4-player map, there is a chance that the Zerg player is going to scout you a little later. Perhaps that's why MacSed did what he did. In a 2-player map, it's really risky to go Nexus first into an in-base gate. Like, it just doesn't get more greedy than that.
And you can see the Overlord still knows exactly what he'll put up there. The drone goes into the main base and can confirm the forge. And the probe will soon reach Sen's base. No super fast third hatchery, but he'll see that it was a hatchery first build. And I don't think it's probably a little bit too late to try to do anything like throw up pylons and cannons.
Yep, that's just a little too late. Still, 3 minutes and 36 seconds is when Sen decided to go up to 3 bases. So that is still very quick. Like anything below the 4-minute mark is very quick in my book. I'm very curious to see when Sen is going to drop the extractors this game. In the last game, he denied them for a very long time. This time he will see it was a forge before a gate. So Sen knows that he has the ability to be a little more greedy. MacSed will throw down a pylon over here. If he would throw down 2 more pylons, I guess he would be able to get a cannon in this little hole. But if I was Sen, I would definitely let that just go up, because then you can just get a queen on the high ground that you can shoot down on that cannon. And it's a big waste of resources for MacSed. And by the time that he would be able to build cannons around that, well, there will be plenty of Zerglings and other queens to take care of that. So if I was Sen, I would have tried to let MacSed finish that, because I don't think that he would have ever lost that hatchery.
Yeah, it's interesting. Maybe it's even just to try to force an aggressive response or force Sen to overcommit on something like that. It can be tricky to read into those situations at times. The natural is done for MacSed. Cybernetic score getting close to that halfway mark. I guess what I'm most curious about looking at this game is, as Sen is just droning up and kind of doing what we saw him do in the last game, MacSed having a slightly different opening setup. what kind of tech does he go for? Are we going to see more of a 2-base setup? Is it more difficult to take a third on this map as a Protoss than Frost, do you think?
I don't think it's that much more difficult. Of course, this is a pretty wide open turret where you have to worry about multiple attack paths. But force fields can also be very effective here, maybe even more effective so than what it was the case on Frost. You know, looking at how solid MacSed played, like that is just the type of build that you can tell your Zerg player in advance, like, hey, I'm going to open up like this. And if he's not opening up with a crazy early pool to punish your super early greed, you know, that's just the type of build where it all comes down to execution. It's basically your bread and butter PvZ if you're very good, because it's a very hard style to execute. And I'm not sure, like, if I was MacSed, I would just do the same thing all over again, because he executed it so well, so clean. And he just looked better than Sen in game 1, which is still not something I necessarily expected, just because, you know, Sen's rich history within StarCraft. And yes, MacSed was very successful in Season 2 and Season 3 of 2013, but that looked almost like two players on a different level.
Yeah, the Zergling in the Overlord able to confirm this. Once again, pretty quick third base from MacSed. Does clean up that Zergling. There are 2 gateways. He's now moving up to 5 in his main base. So a similar setup to the first map.
A little different though, because I think in that map it was only like 3 gates, and then he dropped the Twilight. Was still upgrading. This time this is just a little bit of a fake, I think. So in the previous game, you know, we said that Sen made those roaches. This force field is going to be extremely important, by the way. Because right now, if you're Sen, you must think like, hey, everything looks the same as in the previous game. So it's really nice to see that MacSed still has some of those tricks up his sleeve for what at least I got to love him for. He still didn't take these gases in his natural, which means that he is just going to warp in a ridiculous amount of units. Revealing this probe, that's a little, you know, if I was Sen, I'd be like, hey, why are you so eager to get that probe down there? Like, do you start warping in units or something? One spine crawler will go up. If Sen scouts this in time, 61 drones is a lot of drones. He's still droning. Oh my god, he's going up to 67. It's still possible, but he's going to have to build roaches and roaches only from this point on. If he makes like one more rotation of drones, then he's just dead.
Yeah, and I like that as MacSed sends this push out, he starts up his gas back home just in case he needs to fall back. Spire on the production tab, but only putting out Zerglings right now. 4 roaches finally queue up. Doesn't have roach speed, it's just beginning. And that probe is able to place all these pylons, a nice string of them leading towards the Zerg base. Yeah,
Sen thinking that he's playing against the exact same thing. I can't blame him for it. MacSed sold this very well. Game is not over yet, but Sen, oh Sen, how are you ever going to hold this? This is so much Protoss, 8 gateways behind this. It's going to be unlimited amounts of Stalkers and Zealots.
And no Zergling speed either to get a good position, especially with this time warp. The Zealots are able to move in on these force-fielded roaches, and this Protoss army is just not dying, continuing to warp in Stalkers. The drones even trying to fight against these Zealots. The Queen brought from the natural with these roaches can't even kill the mothership core, and the force field locks everything in on the left side of that mineral line. Yeah. MacSed's attack seems to have been executed flawlessly.
Yep, he tricked Sen. Sen fell for it. Sen played a little bit of too much autopilot mode over there. He scouted with 1 Overlord, but he was never able to see what was truly important. And that was the fact that, you know, these gases were still not taken for the longest time. And he was going up to 6 gateways in his base. So that's why it was different. You know, Sen trying to muster out as many roaches as possible right now, but he just overdid it. He made way too many drones.
Yeah, and that, well, Sen realizes a GG. MacSed with a, I'd say, reasonably quick 2-0 for this series to kick off our group tonight.
MacSed looks scary if he's capable of doing stuff like he did on Frost, just that super solid, like macro PvZ style, which he executed very well. It was as clean as you're gonna get it. And then in game 2, he shows that he's still the tricky MacSed that we once upon a time knew, where he's just like pretending to be doing the exact same thing. Sen scouted everything, you know, for Sen everything looked the same, the timing of the turret. But like we said it on Frost, that was a real one because we saw that Twilight was going on at +2. This time it wasn't real. Yes, it's a little bit of an investment, but instead of like fighting against a Zerg that stops droning at 55 and then makes a bunch of roaches, you're right now playing against a Zerg that's going up to 67 or even 70 drones, and by that time, you know, it's just too late. You cannot defend 8 gateways warping in at your front door when you have 70 drones.
Yeah, it shows a really smart way of thinking about this matchup overall for MacSed, though. You look at it and say, you know, the first map, I'm going to play this economic 3-base style no matter what and just try to overpower my opponent. And then the second game, because it worked so well, Sen, you know, as Mock said, you don't have to be aggressive if you've shown that you can beat him in a macro game. And because of that, Sen looks at the build and he's more easily sold on it. And it's something you can only really do well in a best of 3 to just pull that switch like that, and it worked flawlessly.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And like I said, if MacSed is now capable of doing both, well, then instead of like being like this tricky, dangerous player, he's becoming a very, very scary player. I would almost say for anyone. You know, I was a little surprised when his teammate Gigawa said like, MacSed, 100% sure WCS America round of 16. I was like, I mean, he did go 2 for 2 last year, but I was like, still, it's going to be tricky. But so far, so good. Either way, guys, we're going to head over to a very small commercial break. And after that, we'll be back with some PvT between Puck and Select. So that should be awesome. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back.